Headphones on, let's do this.
Hey, do you know of a podcast I could listen to that has nerd and comic books and stuff? I really can't find one.
I say, you ever heard of the Nerd Dumb Podcast?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Nerd Dome Podcast, episode 236. I am your podcaster without fear, Luke, and today I am joined with the Uncanny Ryab.
Luke. Luke.
It's all right. I'm
I
going
don't
to
know why
leave it.
that's so funny to me. Hi.
Hi.
Luke.
The alliterative Andrew.
Hello. Good to be here.
And classic Chris.
Howdy.
What's up, guys?
What makes Chris so classic, you might ask yourself?
Yes. Old. It's like the classic X-Men. It's full of old stories that you've read before and no original ideas.
Oh,
And,
no, the vignettes at the end were terrific. I have a whole trade of those, dude.
But like classic
Just the
X-Men,
vignettes?
And old.
Just the vignettes.
but like classic X-Men, do you also have a creepy blanket over your legs at all times?
Creepy blanket over my legs at all times, and all my covers are drawn by Mike Mignola.
Art Adams did most of the ones in the beginning, and that's what attracted me to it. But yeah, those Mignola covers, the one he did for the one where they fought Dracula, terrific. One of my favorites.
Ryan's like, yes, I have that one right here.
I don't. I do have some of the classic X-Men ones. The one with the cover where Storm and Sunfire are fighting a dragon. I think it's a Secret
Oh yeah, when they're in
Wars.
Japan after Secret Wars.
Yeah.
I know which one you're
Have
talking
that
about.
one.
Yeah. So we just got done just this past weekend. We had the Salt Lake City FanX comic convention in town, and it was a weekend.
It was a full weekend.
Yeah, my legs have finally recovered.
Mine haven't yet.
From all the walking. My ankle stopped popping and causing me extreme pain, so that's a plus.
Guess what my workout app made me do this morning? Legs.
Legs.
I was like,
Is there a skip leg day button on your app,
There's
and
not.
then it shames you into leg day? That would be awesome. But Ryan, I want to hear about your con experience this year.
Me
The
first.
fun stuff you did.
I stood in a lot of lines.
LineCon
Yes.
23.
Yep. LineCon 23. One of the very first lines I was in, I got some very nice visitors, and they brought me a present.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
It was very nice.
It was you guys.
It was
Oh
you guys.
shit! I thought it was somebody else.
No, they surprised both Chris and Andrew surprised me with a very nice art of Dark Phoenix. I was very excited about it. Framed it immediately. Put it in my office today at work. It was very
I'm
nice.
glad you liked it.
Glad you like it.
That looks awesome.
Chase, my boyfriend, got some autographs of the voice actors. So we got Todoroki, the guy that plays Todoroki on My Hero Academia. He got 2 things signed from him, which he wasn't intending on getting 2 things, and then got up in
Was
the
it
line.
the metal sign?
It's the metal sign. They sold him on the metal thing, and so he got that signed. And then we got Can't Stop Twinkling from My Hero Academia.
Nice.
And then I got. I thought I was going to be most excited for Vincent D'Onofrio because I missed him last year, and because I couldn't go all 3 days, I had another engagement I had to go to, and I was really excited for him. But his handler was pissing me off so mad, and it kind of soured the experience a little bit. Also, he wasn't very engaging at the time. His panel, he was super funny and really engaging with the audience. But when in line to get his autograph and stuff, he wasn't very engaging. And his handler, like, he'd walk up to her like, well, she's like, there's nobody in line really. And we kind of asked, well, when is he going to come out? And she's like, oh, as soon as there's people in line, he'll come out. And I'm like, well, people aren't going to come line up when there's an empty table.
Right.
They're like, well, he can't be out here just doing nothing. Like, yeah, I mean, there's better things that he could be doing. And I'm like, yeah, but there's going to be no people. There's nobody at the table.
Literally being paid to be at the table.
Yeah. So she was like dressed as a African safari lady. It was just like really interesting outfit.
Like a pith helmet and khaki shorts, right?
Yeah, and like the button-up vest thing that matched the pants, the little pantaloon things, and then like a safari hat.
Huh.
Like Nigel Thornberry.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. So she was delightful, but then we finally got enough people that were willing to stand. I went and got my family. I was like, come stand in line with me. So then he came out and we got autographs and half the line left with me.
That's funny.
But the one that ended up being most awesome was Carrie Ann Moss. So Trinity from The Matrix, and she's also in Jessica Jones as the lawyer lady whose character's name I forget. It was also a very good character, but I walked up to her and she didn't have a super long line, and I like talked to her and I'm getting all tongue tied again, even thinking about it. But I was so excited, and I told her, I was like, you play such powerful characters. I love The Matrix. It blew my mind. It's one of my very favorite movies, and I love your other work, and you just play such a strong role, and you're such a good role model, I think. And she like took my hands as I was getting emotional, telling her how awesome she was. And she's like, oh, you're so sweet. And she wrote on my autograph that I have a beautiful heart or something like that.
Oh,
so
wonderful.
That was a really, really neat interaction. She was really cool. And then the wackiest interaction was with John Glover. He plays Lionel Luthor on Smallville. I walk up to him and we start talking, and he's like, I was super into Smallville in high school. It was a really big thing for me. I love that. I you played such a really good part in that. You played such a really good bad guy. And he's like, oh, thank you. And then my mom has this thing where she has a really hard time sometimes separating the actor from the character, and she really doesn't like Lionel Luthor. So she was like giving him the side eye. and she's like, he kind of like looks at her, and then he turns to me. He's like, you've got quite the hot mama there. And my mom was not having it. So she doesn't really say anything back to him. And then I was just kind of talking to him a little bit more, and he did the signature, and he goes, okay, don't smudge me. This is a paint pen, so let it dry. And he goes, and you can't blow on it either. And then I gave the obvious response. He said, oh, you don't want to be blown?
Oh no.
And he looks at me, and then he like he's just kind of taken aback, and then he hands me the thing. He's like, I think you should go now.
Oh no.
And then I go, but I have a picture, I have a photo op with you later. And he goes, oh, well, then I'll do my best. And he starts licking his lips all seductively.
Oh my God.
He said, okay, I'll see you later. And so I go to his photo op a couple hours later, and he recognizes me and walks in, and he like kind of like pulls me in and starts rubbing my head. He's like, this is good luck. And then I didn't know what to do, so I just kind of turned at the camera and smiled, and then they took that picture of him rubbing my head.
Oh man.
So that was fantastic.
That's awesome. I got to meet Charlie Cox with you. That was cool.
Yes. Yeah, so your wife got to go through Jared Padalecki's line with me from Supernatural. She got me into Supernatural, so I was excited to share that experience with her. And then I was excited that you got to come and go through Charlie Cox's line with me and give him a fist bump.
Yep. Fist bump. Nice tattoos. Nice to meet you. Bye. That's celebrity interactions with me most of the time. So, yeah. I didn't realize he had as many tattoos as he did.
Mm-hmm.
They
so
do.
lewd. they were so, the subject matter was mind-boggling. All
with his pine tree tattoo on his forearm.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the weird Daredevil acrostic he had on the other arm.
Right. No, he keeps that on his right ass cheek, and he only shows special people. Yeah. What about did you go to any of the big panels or anything like that?
I went to some. The panels were very different this year because of the actor strike and everybody trying to be supportive of that. They encourage everybody to not ask any questions about any of their work per se. But then people being people didn't come up with anything really to ask otherwise. So we got inane questions like, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite vegetable? Like, they didn't know what else.
How much do you think this building weighs?
Yeah, like stuff like that.
Right.
Some of them were much better at answering those questions than others. Andy Serkis had a really good, compelling, sophisticated answer to every stupid question. Like, that was really interesting. Like, he was answering those stupid questions like a pro. And some people, like the Defenders panel, so it was Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio and Kristen Ritter and Carrie Ann Moss. That was like one of the worst ones in that they just weren't interested in answering those questions. So they just like, yeah, whatever, next question. Like, they didn't really respond a lot. But somebody asked about script analysis, and Vincent D'Onofrio was very excited to talk about that and what his process is and everything. So that was interesting. But they didn't do well with the dumb questions, and some people did better with the dumb questions. But there were so many dumb questions.
See, I feel like that's where someone like Alan Tudyk would have excelled. Yeah. Because his panel, like, I don't go too many, but that one I went to was fantastic, where he had everyone that asked him a question come up on stage, and then he asked them a question in return and gave them some random stuff that he brought with him. Like, that was very entertaining.
And Jared Padalecki and his wife, why can't I remember her name? Anyway, Genevieve Padalecki, he didn't even have like a moderator. He just walked out and was like, no, I know what I'm doing here, and just kind of did his own panel. And they did really well with answering those kind of questions and dancing around some stuff. And then like the Clone Wars panel, where it was Matt Lanter and James Arnold Taylor and Ashley Eckstein. And then Jim Cummings crashed it as a Hondo Ohnaka. He kind of came out at the very end.
Nice.
But they weren't asking questions, and they start talking about Clone Wars, and they're like, well, wait, you guys probably think you can't ask us about that. They're like, the animation stuff's not on strike, so we can talk about the cartoon and on our voice work there. We just can't talk about like the movies and stuff like that. So then people start asking more the questions that they wanted to ask them to begin with. But
that's cool. So that was a pretty good one, though.
Yeah, that one was a pretty good one. The Jared Padalecki one was pretty good. And then there's a YouTube channel, and I don't know if this guy's supposed to be able to do it or not, but there's a YouTube channel that there's a guy that goes to all the panels and records them and posts them online. There's a lot of them that you couldn't, like, they made it so that you couldn't record. They asked everybody it's a no media panel. But many of them you still could record. So I usually spend Sunday watching the panels that I missed on that YouTube channel.
Yeah. Yes, Chris or Andrew, what about you?
I went to a couple fun panels. I went to one of the voiceover panels, the Twisted Tunes, where I'd never been to one of those. I'd seen.
You never been to one? What did you think?
Oh, it was fun. Yeah, usually I don't get to go to that stuff because I'm working a booth. But we didn't have a booth this year, but we just were on panels, and it was fun. I forgot how much fun conventions could be. Yeah, had a blast. Got to dress up with my friends Natalie and Jalen, and that was great. Awesome. Yeah, we dressed up as Mystery Science Theater 3000 characters, Dr. Forrester and TV's Frank, and I was Joel, and I had a Tom Servo robot. It was fun. Had a blast.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I always yeah, sorry. Right.
You're fine. I always like the Twisted Tunes with Jim Cummings because Winnie the Pooh as the bad guy is always the best.
Yeah. Terrific. Darkwing Duck, always good. Yeah.
So I think I was talking to Chris about this when we were there, that hearing, I believe he did, I can't remember, I think it was the second Ultimate Alliance game. Jim Cummings did the voice of Thor, and it was so off-putting because all I hear is Winnie the Pooh speaking in Old English.
Nice.
When you have such a distinctive voice like that, it's hard. You know what I mean? To look past that. So it's half the reason I don't play with Thor on that game. And I was just like, I can't. I'm sorry. He does a great job, but it's just does like when the voice doesn't match the character.
Mhm.
I only went and saw the
Funny-
panels that you guys were on, or I
Yeah,
was on it.
How were all of your panels? Did you get a lot of good audience participation?
They put us in 2 rooms, right? Like they were like, you can be in this room or this room, and nothing in between. Yeah, got. I don't know. It's always our philosophy. It's if it's 4 people or 400, it's going to be the same show.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's
Poorly done. Oh,
poorly, yeah, meandering. Cold takes on everything. No, but the audience. There was a few audience members that came to several of the comic book panels, and that was really cool to see some of the. You can see who the comic book fans are because they look for the panels that are about the Avengers and Harley Quinn and
Blade.
stuff like that, and
Right.
they're the generally the smaller rooms. Like you can tell that the cons are moving over to pop culture, right? Like the comic books are kind of being moved out of the spotlight. They are part of the fracture groups now that make up Comic Con. So there's like the furries, the anime character fans, and the comic book people. They're becoming more of like the orbit. If Comic Con is like a giant planet, they're sort of the moons that are orbiting, and that's around the country. That's just a move
Right.
that as more of the comics are being made into movies and TV shows and stuff, there's a bigger audience there, right? And so, but it is fun. So the people who are coming to the Comic Con or to the comic book panels are the people who want to talk about comics. It's almost like you want to bring them all to the front row. You know what I mean? Be like,
Right.
"Oh, we're having a chat here. Come in and talk about
We
it."
saved you a spot, Steve. Come on up
Yeah.
here, man. Yeah.
This is the in-person podcast. You can yell at us from here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I only had a couple panels where we had someone from the audience talking as part of the panel, which is always a problem. And it was the only one I did that was not with you guys. It was my video games adaptation panel. We had a kid in the front row that really wanted to be up on the panel. And there was a couple times I had to like, okay, we're going to answer this question though. Because he was answering the questions that people from the audience were asking. And we're like, okay, but hold on.
That's why you just need to get a spray bottle.
Right. He was right in front, so it would have been very
That's
effective.
enough. Yeah.
Very effective. But yeah, the panels you were on, Chris, how did you like those?
They were fun. It was like the Harley Quinn panel could sit and talk about Harley Quinn for hours on end. Why the classic one's better than the new one. No, but like for real, like the character arc for the character, having a new character, one that was invented as I was watching Batman and really liked, and then watching her the character grow and move between all the people who were who've portrayed her in live action, all the or animation, the people who have like written for her in the comic books, and all the different medias. You could sit there. We didn't even get into some of the things that I wanted to talk about there, which were things like the Return of the Joker, the Batman Beyond movie, is one of the best Batman movies. It's one of the most evil Jokers in any movie. Right.
Oh, yeah.
And so so we didn't even talk about that Harley's in that one. And as a grandma, she has two grandkids, Dee Dee. They're also very cool characters that I don't know if they've shown up in other things or not. I think that they were in one of the comic books at some point. The Avengers panel went exceedingly well, and like a dream come true on that one, right? Because through circumstance, the Jim Starlin, legendary comic book creator, who has apparently not been to a comic book panel in years, came to watch us talk about the Avengers here in Salt Lake. He was a guest. He had a table at the convention, and so made his way into our panel. And after talking to him at the end of it, asking him like, "So, what do you think?" He said it was really interesting to be in a panel where, as a creator, he is writing these comics to try and for the audience. So it's interesting to come and hear the audience talk to itself about what he and the other writers are trying to accomplish. And so he made the observation where he said, there was a part of the conversation that we were having where the panelists were talking about what they would like to see in the future of Avengers comics, and we all had like our takes, that were kind of cool. And he said that that's the worst thing you can do as a writer, is trying to write to the audience. Like, if people want something, then you shouldn't write for that. So I kind of went back and forth, because Andrew and I always talk about, like, if not writing for the audience, but having an idea of what the audience wants, but giving it to them in a way that they don't expect. Right. Because if you go too far off center, you end up with things that are not even in the genre anymore. You know what I mean? Like, maybe you're kind of off target there. And so he was like, yeah, like that. So it was really cool to see him, to hear, like a person who created the thing we're talking, lots of stuff about the thing we were talking about, and kind of get his take on it.
All right. My favorite thing was the giveaway that you did at the end to that kid.
Yeah, we talked about this at the last podcast, right? Where I was printing up some replica comic book pages and covers, and I did one of a Jim Starlin cover, had Ultron on the cover. I think it was 157 Avengers. And I gave that out, and it's Jim Starlin's art, and so that was the guy who had been to several of our panels and had participated in all of them, and he picked that one because I gave him out to anybody who was dressed in Avenger, and then I had an extra spot, and I told him, come up and get a prize because you've been participating all day. This has been great, all weekend actually. And then as he went back to his seat, Jim Starlin walked up to him, and he's like, "Hey, you want me to sign the artwork?" And he's like, "No way!" Like, we didn't let anybody know he was in the audience. I saw him and took a picture. He went up and had a conversation with him, and then when he came up afterwards, he was like shaking, like, "Oh my gosh, can you believe that?" You know what I mean? I was like, "You chose wisely."
Right. Yeah, right.
Man, like, that was what a send off, because it was also like the last panel of the last day. So, like, what a send off! What a cool thing to have been there all weekend, get that, and then have that experience. Like, super. Cool.
That kid's smile was ear to ear, and his eyes were the size of baseballs when he came walking out of that that panel room. It was great. And also, I did notice when you held up the one saying that it was done by Jim Starlin, he kind of put his hands over his eyes to look at it, and he goes, "Oh yeah,
sure.
Yeah, just one lying. Sure." He's like, "Yeah, no, that's me. That's me." That was really cool. What about you, Andrew?
Well, I was sitting right next to Chris when all that happened, so that was pretty rad.
Right.
Yeah. No, I was only on a couple panels that you guys weren't on, and they were fun. Yeah, it was. I think the only one that I did that you guys weren't on was Blade. Right, and that was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I jumped on that one. I wasn't supposed to be.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Someone bagged out, and so they were like, "Do you know anything about Blade?" And I'm like, "I've seen the movies." Rad. I'm on.
Yeah. See, I saw the Blade one and the Harley Quinn one were the ones that I sat in on. and just was part of the audience on those ones. Those ones were really good.
Andrew super belongs on anything Blade related because everyone else can talk the movies to death, right? Like that was a lot of people's introduction to the character, right? If not, maybe like the '90s Spider-Man cartoon. But yeah, it's always fun to listen to Andrew talk about it because he's a huge fan of Tomb of Dracula, which is where he premiered, right? And so it takes being a fan of that one a little bit to be able to have the historical context for Blade.
It was really good, and I felt like with Andrew up there, really laid the having the balance between talking about the movies and talking about the comics. And I think that's important on a lot of those because especially like we were saying with all of the new movies and stuff coming out, I think it is important to touch on those in these because that's kind of what half the audience is probably there for the comic talk and then the other half is there for movies and TV talk. So you do kind of have to bounce back and forth a little bit on those.
Right.
I did have fun on our X-Men animation panel, especially when we started talking about X-Men Evolution, which is usually the kind of the stepchild of the X-Men.
I like that one because it has all the new mutants in it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's like Dawson's Creek, but with mutants, which accurately describes a lot of the X-Men, just in general. But yeah, I always said it was it's stuck in the early 2000s, just like their fashion choices and
very much a product of its time.
Music playing at the parties and stuff like that. You're like, oh, okay, yep, all right, I see what was going on.
I've been going through what I recorded because I was in front row for that one and recorded some clips, and I've been going through stuff to make little 1-2 minute TikToks out of, right, to get up on the Validity Studio site or account. And the X-Men animation one, everyone who was on that panel was very excited to talk about X-Men. So there was not a lot where it was like a segment of here's a thought.
Right.
There was a lot of people being like, oh my God. So it was it was super fun to watch, a lot of high energy and whatnot, but not a lot of things that you could get. One clip that I was going to kind of make out of it was Cyclops fanboying. You had
I didn't do any.
I was like, Luke,
I didn't do any.
No,
I didn't have to.
Yeah, there was some big Cyclops fans on the panel, and so you could tell they were very excited about it.
Yeah, that was fun. I did like our X-Men, the history of X-Men panel. That one was really good.
Fun one.
That was really good. When friend Phil CV in the audience on that one, which was awesome. And Ryan, you weren't there, but they were talking about who is a character that you associate with. And ever since Phil was on the show, he had me rethinking Cable a lot from the dad perspective. So I said, we had a guest. I didn't want to name drop, but I said we had a guest on and, it was this and this. I did not see Phil in the audience until Andy pointed to him and said, hey, stand up and wave and say hi.
Actual X-Men artist in the.
I completely took his answer because he was going to answer. He goes, Luke said my answer. And I was like, that's him. That's
the guy.
I felt bad because it mildly stole his thunder. If he was in there, I would have come up with a different answer. If I would have seen him in there, I would have come up with a completely different answer. But I was like,
Didn't everybody else pick Nightcrawler anyway?
Right.
Yeah,
it's just Nightcrawler.
Which what you have to say about this here is that who are we? Because it's comic creators who come and see our panels.
Right.
Oh man, Chris, you be careful with that.
Right.
I know it happened to be these 2 times, but I'm gonna grab onto it, and it's gonna
2
be part of my
points make
ego
a line.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Yep. We need that third
man.
one because twice is a coincidence. Third time is enemy movement, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you were talking about Nightcrawl, and it just made me think. I was just watching these videos. It was from the Pete Holmes show a while back, like 9 years ago, and it was like the firing of the X-Men. And I was watching the outtakes of Pete Holmes and Thomas Middleditch as Nightcrawler, and that is some of the funniest stuff that I've ever seen. Because Thomas Middleditch is hilarious, especially doing improv. And watching those two not be able to keep a straight face through the whole thing was comedy gold. So Pete Holmes show, X-Men, you look it up, you'll find it.
Pete Holmes is really funny. He's
He has a lot of comic book stuff, as it turns out.
a lot of video game
A
stuff.
lot of
too.
material. Yeah.
He just started a new series where he's Batman firing other members of the Justice League, and he has Aquaman and Wonder Woman as the first two. So so it's great. And that's where the I know I've shown it to Ryan before with the angel being a bird, and he asks him if he wants his seeds loose or in bell form. It's comedy gold. But yeah, I wanted to talk about the Star Wars panel that Chelsea and I did. Chelsea and Noel from Go to Hell podcast and some of our other friends. That one was really fun because not only did we, I feel, defend the prequels pretty well from a story point of view, but also from like a technical out of universe point of view, like with the advancements that were made because of that movie, or that set of movies. Yeah, and they even let me talk about lightsabers. So, if they would have let me, I would have talked for like 2 hours about lightsaber combat because I'm a nerd like that. But
Chris has a fun lightsaber story. Chris has a fun lightsaber story.
Oh yeah. Did we tell you this story, Ryan? Did you hear this yet? Okay.
I don't think so.
So no, first off, so Luke, I didn't know all that stuff about the lightsaber, like the forms and stuff like that. So I thought that was really cool. Also hit the Validity Studios TikTok because we grabbed that segment out of your talk and put some of the examples that you were talking about with it. Turned out to be a really nice video. So anyway, so you were talking about those lightsabers. And you and Chelsea, such huge fans of that part of Star Wars, and there's this company called Ultra Sabers, and you see those guys who make the lightsabers all the time, right? And they, I've been putting off getting a lightsaber from this place for like years because they do a mystery box, $75, and it could be the most bargain basement, terrible, like a factory mistake lightsaber, all the way up to the Cadillac of what they make. It's a mystery box. It's gambling, right? And so I go over there and I'm like, hey, I want you guys to come with me. I'm going to buy a mystery box. I want you to see that when I open it so that you can tell me what it's about. Like, is it supposed to be somebody's? Is this from one of the cartoons? Is this a character? Who is it? You know what I mean? And our other friend, Abigail, she goes by Stabby because she was a roller derby person and has a fun nickname. So if I call her Stabby, she's not like she didn't stab someone in prison.
Not yet, anyway.
Not yet. She might. Yeah. She seems like the type of person who would over something. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I would not trifle with her. No.
Yeah, I would not. So I said, she was like, "Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Let's go do it." She's in town for the FanX and just hang out with us. Let's go do that. We'll go do it together. So we go over to the booth. We pay our money. She gets in line in front of me, and we get there, and they open up her box, and the guy lets out like this audible gasp where he is like, I never hand out one that is this nice. Hang on a second. You're going to be here for a minute. And he goes through these features of this lightsaber where it has sound and lights, not just lights, but like the programmable lights, the lights that can change, do all the different stuff. It's a huge lightsaber.
It does your taxes.
Yeah, it does some taxes. Yeah, it was. It has some like features that they haven't put out yet. It's almost a real lightsaber. You can hook it up with your USB. It's rechargeable batteries. The USB hooks to your computer, and then you can do all sorts of. It says "Eat at Joe's." You know what I mean? And it's just this amazing thing. It plays the theme every time you walk in a room. It's just this amazing lightsaber. So I am like the 50-50. I am thrilled that my friend got the coolest one that you could possibly get out of there. I am 50% so fucking pissed that it was like I'm next in line. Next, it could have been 5 people in front of me. You know what I mean? Next, that's son of a bitch. You know what I mean? So super happy for her, and I'm like, okay, but I'm gonna just, it's like the sorting hat here. I just gonna take my lightsaber and I'm gonna be super thrilled with whatever I get. And Chelsea had made a big deal where she was like, oh, I was so worried when I got my mystery box. I was wondering if it would be red. I was so worried I was gonna be a Sith or something like that. And I thought, how cool would that be? You know what I mean? Like, get a red one, you know, powerful lightsaber, Darth Vader style. And so we get my box, he pulls it out, and yeah, no gasp, no nothing. He pulls it out, and it's this really cool black one. They call it the Dark Apprentice, right? And so I'm like, cool. So he puts it all together for me, and he's like, here you go. And he turns it on, and it is this spearmint wintergreen color in this black hilt. I look like Darth Fluoride from the planet Brush Twice a Day.
Colgate.
Yeah, Darth Colgate from the planet Fluoride. And I am like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. This is absolute. Could this be further apart from each other? You know what I mean? Of like the $80. And then she looked it up. That lightsaber she got, it's like retails for like $850.
It's the exact one that I just got, Ryan.
Is it
the Cal Kestis one?
Yeah.
So
even is it the Cal Kestis hilt? Oh wow.
Yeah, and even I was like, I just paid almost full price for that.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Thrilled that she got it. It was a friend that got that. How cool, you know what I mean?
She almost left it in the bathroom.
And she did. She almost left it in a bathroom. She went and put it in a stall and then came back, and I handed her my lightsaber because I needed to go to the bathroom. She was like, oh, this is a nice lightsaber. I have a nicer one. Oh, no! And she ran like a shot. And then it was gone out of the bathroom. It was gone out of the she was looking for the lost and found, and as she was walking around, she saw a person with it, and the looked like someone who didn't need a lightsaber with their costume, and said, hey, I think that's mine. And and gave it back. You know what I mean? Was like, yeah, it looked expensive. Here you go, and got it back. And then she came back into our panel room, and I made everybody in the hall cheer that she got it back. And all of our hearts were healed because it was like, you're not going to have won that and then like put it down somewhere. So it is safely with her now. We all make sure where it is. We ask her where it is every time we see her. Like, where's your saber? It's in the car. I looked at it. So, but yeah, good for her. That was amazing. Yeah. And what a great story. Like, I couldn't, if I would have just got a red lightsaber, it'd be like, oh, I got a red lightsaber, whatever. But yeah, this is a core memory now. But there was so much of that sort of stuff that happened at this convention that were just, I couldn't believe it. Time after time, something so cool would happen, or somebody so fun to meet. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Why don't you tell the group about Bob Camp?
Oh yeah, Bob Camp. So the co-creator of the Ren and Stimpy.
He worked on SpongeBob and all.
Yeah, co-founder of Spumco. So I wasn't even gonna go talk to him. I'm a huge Ren and Stimpy fan, but I was like, my wallet was having issues at this convention, right? Where especially on the third day, I'd done pretty good until the third day. But Andrew actually talked me into going over and talking to him, and then even talked me into buying something. I was at the table, wasn't going to buy anything. I was like, I just can't. So talked me into it. Bought a comic because I'm a comic guy. Got a Ren and Stimpy number 7, which is super cool. Has a bubblegum bad guy that comes to life and fights Ren and Stimpy on there. And so talked to him for a minute, and he's like, so what do you guys do? And I'm like, well, we're local comic book publishers, and we have like you're a huge inspiration because we're working on a cartoon that's based on our character the Gull, who's a superhero. He's like Batman, but he lives in a park and he eats garbage. And he was like, oh, that's really cool. Like, what are you gonna? Oh, and I said, we even did one of your things where you stop the panel and it's the growth and it's the really yucky looking character really close up and there's a scream and they're breaking glass. And he's like, yeah, I made those out. Those are called gross out takes, And I was like, yep,
gross ups.
Yeah,
close up. Yeah.
Thank you, gross ups. And then he's like, what are you gonna do with the cartoon? We're like, it's for fun. we just want to work on a cartoon. I mean, if somebody picked it up one of these days, I wouldn't argue with them. You know what I mean? But it is certainly just because it's within our reach. We have the tools that we can do it by ourselves nowadays. And he told us, he's like, hey, you know what? Like, as far as somebody picking it up, that the percent chance of that happening is 0%, because I'm trying to do that, and I made all of this. And he gestured to his table, right? And he's like, and I can't get anybody to pick it up. He says, but he looked at us, and I'm gonna get verklempt here. You know what I mean? Where he's like, don't give up on it. He's like, make sure you do it because it sounds awesome. And you guys are doing it the right way, where you've got a comic book out already, where you've got a fan base that is already interested in this character. And he's like, so yeah, make sure that you finish that. And we told him we'd send him a link to the cartoon when it's done. So it was like one of the best interactions that I've had. I love having those. It's always scary, right? Like you go to a person that you've loved their work, and it's a chance because you don't know, and they're people, right? Like, and conventions are hard and they are tiring, and who knows if they're at the end of their rope with dealing with people who have come up and been asking them stupid questions, you know what I mean, all day long about like the itchy and scratchy, like he played the same rib but it played two different notes. I hope someone got fired for that. How long do they deal with everybody like that? And then you're the next guy in line, you know what I mean? But he was an absolute delight. Got a bunch of pictures with him and stuff, and so yeah, that one turned out awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. I did bring my daughter for one day of the convention, and she got to dress up as one of her favorite anime characters, and she had a great time. She got to meet the main voice actor from the show that she was dressed up as, and it was really cool because you hear him talking to everyone as you're waiting in line, and he was just talking to him, and then once my daughter and I got up there, he was filling it out, and we had mentioned that this is actually her first autograph that she had ever come to get, and he immediately started talking to her in the voice of the character, and I could see her little feet like pitter pattering. She was keeping it cool, like from the shoulders up, but like below the feet were just patting back and forth, just pure excitement. And then she just had a smile on her face for like 2-3 hours after that. Like that was another really, really awesome. It's tied for the most awesome thing that happened at this convention. But yeah. I don't know if Andrew wants to tell that story, if Chris wants to tell the story.
No, go, you guys go on. I feel like I talked a whole bunch at the top. So Chris, you're up.
Yeah. So, through a set of circumstances, and this is one of those things where it's like just showing up is like half the battle, right? Sometimes where it is just going to and knowing somebody, right? So we ended up. So our good friend Chelsea, who is a dynamo in any booth at a Comic-Con, at any sort of fan con, if sales are up, because she is so personable and friendly and knowledgeable and funny about stuff that that's why she's so great at running the panels. And so she apparently made some sort of impression on Jim Starlin at the show, enough where he was like, hey, I'm here by myself, could you help me out in the booth so that you can kind of handle the money and tell people about like the deals on the posters and stuff. And so she did that for the third day of the con. And then a text came across our phones that said, hey, who wants to go to dinner with Jim Starlin? And we were like, what? Are you
emphatically yes? Yeah.
Andrew lost his we were in line for food, and he lost his appetite immediately.
Right. Yeah. And so we ended up with at a sushi place, which he found for us like a father, because like the places we kept taking were like, we're going to be an hour and a half, And so he looked up and he's like, everybody likes sushi. And you know what? He could have said, you know what? Does everyone want to eat like expired cans of Spam?
Guys, we're gonna go to this used cat food factory.
Yeah, we're gonna go eat rubber
Sure thing,
tires. Who's
Mr.
up for that?
Starlin.
We'd be all like this. Whatever you say, Mr. Starlin. That sounds great. And so we went to a sushi place, which was fabulous, and the sushi place was awesome. And what was great is didn't end up talking about comics a ton. Talked about his time in the Navy. Talked about his like favorite bagel place in New York.
Star Trek.
Star Trek.
Yep.
Yeah. Talked about there was another funny one where it was like, this is weird that we're sitting here talking. But
fans in Mexico.
Yeah. And I mean, didn't want to make it feel like a panel where we were sitting there and be like, oh, what was Jack Kirby like? You know what I mean? Or whatever thing, you know what I mean? He's just a guy who, you know, needs some dinner after doesn't need a bunch of fanboys around, you know. We did joke around with him that we were gonna I did anyway. I never know when to shut up, you know what I mean, when I'm around people like this. And so he was like, where are we going? And I was like, yeah, joke's on you, there's no restaurants right here. They're gonna have our own secret panel here and nobody's ever gonna see you again. Yeah. What I thought was funny that he mentioned is he was like, there's some people who were like, what kind of weird people do you meet at the con? And he's like, you know what, like the people at the Salt Lake Con were like, there were fewer weird people here. I think if anybody, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it wasn't like a glowing like, oh, it was still hey, there are fewer weird people here than at other places.
It's not
right?
none, mind
There's
you.
not none
because we were standing next to him.
But I think what was he saying? Did he say someone was misreading Captain Marvel?
Yeah, the eye patch Canadian prison. The guy said he got his eye patch in prison.
Yes, he got his eye patch in prison. And he was sitting there like trying to tell him that he could read the coded white supremacy messages in Captain Marvel comics, and he's like, "It's not my comic, and not you, and I think you should get away from the table and stuff like that." Yeah. So yeah. I can imagine, like, if you've been that prolific and that famous in comics for that long, that you have to have hundreds of those kinds of stories of absolute lunatics who have read into something that you did not put there. You know what I mean?
Like the story.
Something to look forward to, Chris.
Right. Him telling the story about having to stay 45 minutes away from the convention center in Brazil. They wouldn't let them leave the convention center with how rough it was outside.
Yeah.
They're like, no, you stay in here until we come get you.
Yeah.
That was crazy. Funny thing is Ryan saw us walking out.
I'm standing in a line, and
like you do,
and like I do, and I see these guys walk out, and I am not too terribly observant of my surroundings, but I'm like, oh, people I recognize. Chelsea and Andrew and Chris and Luke are walking out, and so I'm like waving at them, and like Andrew, you had this like look of flabbergastedness on your face.
Overwhelmed, I think.
Overwhelmed, sure. And then Chelsea just looked stone-faced. Like she's just walking, like she didn't even make eye contact with me. And then I was like, what are you guys doing? And then Luke was giving me super weird looks. I'm like, what are you guys doing? I did not see anybody. I did not pay attention to anybody else that was with you. And then Luke's like, this gives me the sign that he's going to text me. And he's texted me who you're with. And I was like, that was him?
And then I called him after. And I was like, I really, really hope the line that you were in was not trivial, that it was something that you really wanted to get to, because you should have left that line and joined our line.
So what my line was. So so I mentioned earlier that I really liked Smallville, and it was a big thing for me. The dude that plays Lex Luthor and the dude that played Clark Kent, Superman, were at the con. I already met them before, so I didn't do their autographs or pictures this year. But they they have a podcast that they do. Michael Rosenbaum has one that's Inside of You, and it's really good and really funny, and he's a very good host. And then they have another one where it's Talkville, where they talk Smallville stuff exclusively. And they do this other thing called Smallville Nights, where it's like they do it at certain shows or whatnot, and it's like a very small gathering like you go and it's kind of like I kind of envisioned it as it's going to be like a live podcast kind of thing where you get to talk to them. No, it was not like that. So that was what I was in line for. But it was like you go in there and he's like, after they kind of started, they're like, who has seen all the episodes of Smallville? And like everybody in the room raises their hands. There's like very small people amount in the room, and it's a very small panel room. He's like, who's seen it more than twice? And almost everybody raised their hands. He's like, well, do you remember the scene where like Clark and Lex meet each other for the first time? And everybody's like, yeah. And they're like, would you like to come out and act it out with us?
Oh, wow.
And so they had like all the scripts and everything there, and you got to like interact with them and play their roles. And they're like, well, this is what it was like on set. This is the direction that we'd get. This is what, and they kind of like walked us through how to film a scene, and we acted, and they did a couple of different scenes. And it was really fun. I'm pretty sure Tom Welling was a little bit drunk.
Oh, rad.
And he was really funny. And they're like, they don't let you had to turn your cell phone off when you walked in. There's no recording. There's no kids of anything like that. And they're like, we don't let you record it. And every show is different. And we want you to come in and just have an interaction with us. And we want to just be ourselves. So we don't want to be recorded. And we just want to have fun with you guys and just be as crazy as and as weird as we want to be. Mm-hmm. And that was just really fun. So it was like an hour and a half of messing around with a group of people who love Smallville and the two people who were there. So it was pretty cool.
That's rad.
Sounds
Rosenbaum
awesome.
Seems awesome.
He's so funny. He's really cool.
Yeah. So
it doesn't mean that I wasn't jealous also of you guys going to dinner, and because I messaged Luke when I messaged him back, I was like, I expect stories.
So I call him at like 1 a.m. and I'm like, listen. It was that's up there tied with my seeing the joy in my daughter's eyes was what did you say, Andrew? The 10-year-old?
Yeah, the 10-year-old me was very impressed with that weekend. Yeah.
Yeah. So last con question I want to ask you guys. What was your favorite like experience doesn't count? What's your favorite like physical thing that you got at the convention this year?
You're gonna show us.
I have here. Yeah, I just want to make sure that I got the name right. So one of the coolest things that I got, it's called Carmilla, the First Vampire, and this is by the author Amy Chu. But the artist in this one is Sue Lee, and who is she worked on the Salt City Strangers. It was an early published work of hers. She worked on issue number 2 of the Strangers, and so she did this all the art for this book. She worked on a public domain character called Phantoma, and she also did the Maleficent comic book for Disney just recently, that Adrian Ropp did a alternate cover for. So all these connections. But Amy was amazing. She was in the pro group, right? They had this like section where
she was right across from Jim Starlin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yep. She was in the pro groups there, and so when we were wanted to get something from her, she worked on Vampirella, also the Vampirella Betty Veronica crossover, and so sitting there talking to her for a minute, and then I saw Sue Lee's name on there, and so we started talking about her, and then actually traded her some comics. I had some copies of Ruthless with us, and so I gave her those, and then she was like, oh, well, let me trade you some comics, and talked to her about the convention a little bit, and was like, what do you think about Salt Lake? You ever been here before? And she goes, no, Salt Lake is beautiful and stuff. And she said, but the convention is interesting, which is always ends up being like, if we ask the pros or somebody who's come in from outside, our convention is very Salt Lake. Mm-hmm. It is not like any convention. If you go somewhere else and go to a convention, it is very Utah unique, and ends up, because it's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday show, almost no other convention does it over those 3 days. And so it ends up being that, and I've heard this from a few people there, that it ends up that it is not as lucrative as a show as a lot of places that go on Saturday and Sunday, because a lot of Thursday, there's not as many people there because they're at work. So it's just a number of people thing. And also like that the convention is huge. So there's it is ginormous. One of the biggest artist alleys in the country, and one of the biggest celebrity rows in the country too. And so it's interesting to see if you want to watch some interesting takes on the convention from the artist alley. I'm sorry, I'm straying from my thing here, so I'm very excited. So LGBTQ friendly book, and it has the sign on there. And apparently, someone came up and was like, "I don't know about all that," but I think bought it anyway. So, and I said, you know what? That's what we want. We want people who change their mind. They're open to changing their mind and stuff. But if you want to watch, if you want to go to TikTok and look up Zenigami, Zeenigami, and Kelsey, Kelsey. She's at Alien Kitty _designs on Instagram. They were both in the artist alley. I follow both of them on TikTok, and I didn't see them because of how massive the artist alley was. I missed several lanes of even thinking that I had gone up and down all of them. Didn't get to see them there, and they put up videos where they had their take on the convention as well.
That's cool. Ryan?
You're going to think that I'm playing it up here, but I really... It meant a lot to me that you guys made that art. I really think that's the most right production of it here. If I had to pick a second thing, probably the Carrie Ann Moss photo and signature. She was just fantastic interaction with me.
Cool.
Yeah, she sounds amazing. That sounded like fun. You sit there and talk about Memento the whole time.
There you go.
Oh no, she was in that. She was in the second Silent Hill movie.
Oh
yeah, yeah. Talk about that one.
Yeah,
for an hour.
For an hour, just be like, what was it like? How was the director to work with here? Like that was.
How many hours of Silent Hill 2 did you play in preparation for this?
Preparation for it, yeah. Because I found it's a hard game. You know what I mean?
I've never seen Memento, but I have seen the Silent Hill movie.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
What about you, Andrew?
I got a vintage theater poster of Howard the Duck.
Nice. Really?
Yeah. It's an actual vintage one from the 80s. Yeah. I'm struggling to frame it because it's like 41 inches.
Right.
Yeah. It's like a weird measurement. So I've been researching frames for it.
Just gotta go to the cabinet shop and just have them build him one.
Yeah, exactly. I need some carpentry going on. Yeah.
Well, if you've listened to any of this podcast, and I think last episode, you understand what a fan Andrew is. So yeah, when he caught that, it was that was a get. Yeah.
It's like they listened to the episode and they knew to pack that. We're just gonna go with that is what our canon is. And it'll be fine. If we think it enough, that'll make it true.
Well, they actually told me the backstory is that Leah Thompson was supposed to be there, and so that's why they brought it. And then she canceled. Right. And so, but it was under $100. It was like, I thought it would be more than that because, it was nice. I felt like I got a deal. So
that's awesome. I also felt like I got a deal. I was looking at my favorite thing that I got was I was looking at a table where they had a bunch of like anime statues, and I'd walked by it like, I don't know, 15 times by the third day. And then I looked down and I see this cardboard box that says Famicom's $30. And I said, wait, like
$30?
Like, really? So, and then I went and I did my research on how much they go for on eBay to make sure, like, because I was like, $30 sounds like a deal. And then I went and looked it up. I'm like, oh, yeah, no, it's a deal. So yeah, I went through the box and I got the best intact one. It still had the little plastic cover for the cartridge slot and for the thing in the front. I mean, I haven't cleaned it up enough. I've done like a cursory cleaning on it, but I plugged it in, used my converters. It turns on. I put in my Japanese Dr. Mario game, and it works. So
Wow.
so yeah, that was a steal, and it was small enough because it's about this big. I just put it in my little tiny backpack that I carried with me the whole convention. But yeah, that one was fun.
I remember you saying like, "Oh, I don't know if I want to go get it because I don't want to carry it around the whole convention." And I almost offered just to carry it for you because it was like, you're really gonna let it go. You know what I mean? Like you were gonna get that regret later where you're gonna be like, it was $30. You know what I mean? You probably
Yeah.
did you talk him down at all, or did you get anything else thrown in?
So the games he had like 6 copies of Dr. Mario that I knew that I had. And then the rest was just NES stuff. So he really didn't have anything for it. So I was looking to get one, and then maybe, okay, what if I get the console and this game for $30? But I knew that was the one that I had already. And I was like, oh, but yeah, no, it was overall it was a fun convention. Backside stuff is a little different than has been in the past. But as the panels go, and like actually got to hang out with Chris and Andrew most of the convention this time, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had a blast.
I don't know. Don't know if I'm going to get a table anymore.
Right.
Like, yeah, it's sure a lot more fun without one.
Yeah, I was going to say this was a pretty good time. You know what I mean? And I've been going to this show for 10 years, and almost every single time it's working for somebody, you know what I mean? Either for ourselves or for one of the comic shops early on, you know? And so this is like the first one I like really, really attended. And yeah, had a good time. So, I mean, can't tell the future, you know what I mean? Like maybe that'll be the big deal. But yeah, it was a pretty good time for us to be running around. And like I said, things happened every single day that would have, one of them on their own would have been a con highlight, you know what I mean? And so the fact that I think that's what happened. It saved up. We manifested this year.
Right.
We said everything this year is going to be super awesome. It was fun ending up like seeing who we ended up with, because sometimes we would splinter into different groups. Like the crowd we'd turn around. We're like, well, it's just us now, I guess. Let's go get food. And then we go get food. You know what I mean? And
I feel like that seemed to happen to you and me the most, Chris.
It happened to us a lot. Yeah. I don't know if that's saying something to me. You know what I mean? If people are like,
leave the tall ones behind.
Yeah. That's us. They were like, I'm going to have more fun.
Find and catch up.
That's true.
That's true.
That is true.
Yeah. I could spot Chris anywhere on a row. Same with Kirsten.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it was really fun. I did want to, if anyone who came to the video game adaptation panel, they asked a question: what are some good video movies that were adapted to video games? And all I could think of was the terrible, like Marvel ones, like the terrible Iron Man and Thor ones. But I thought of one like 2 days later, the Friday the 13th game.
Oh yeah.
That Matrix game was pretty good. The one where you could run up the walls.
Yeah. That one was pretty good too. But
Friday the 13th, like the old NES one, or the PC one, or the one that like the Dead by Daylight one.
The NES one was good. I was thinking of the one that just I guess it's like 5-6 years ago now.
Yeah. The 4-on-1
one person is Jason, and then the rest are counselors.
Yeah,
and you run around. That was surprisingly fun. So if there was anyone out there that was at that panel and wanted a better answer for that, other than me just going, "Ugh, they were all terrible," but that did
that Wolverine one was really good. The Wolverine Origins. That video game is pretty good.
Way better than the movie.
I didn't play it, but I really I heard that the Chronicles of Riddick, Butcher Bay, was supposed to be pretty good.
Those are good.
That came out.
Yep.
Yeah. And I can't say that these panels will 100% be at the next convention, but next year we do have some pretty big anniversaries coming up, which, Daredevil for me, I'm going to throw things at the wall until they give me a Daredevil panel. But, we have Wolverine, Doctor Strange,
Well,
Hawkeye,
we're just going to talk about
Quicksilver.
the Lev Gleason Daredevil at least.
Listen, I will take it. I will, if they're like, you can only talk about the 2003 Ben Affleck Daredevil movie, I will take it. But also we have, Iron Fist, Teen Titans, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's all anniversaries next year.
It's because 1984 was like one of the best years for things for pop culture.
Yes, I also came out in 1984.
Hey,
Nice.
Also,
you came out like when you were like you knew then.
No, I was born then.
That makes more sense. I was just like, wow, you don't look that old.
How do you phrase that, man?
Oh man,
I'm coming out.
Yeah. Mazel tov. Right on.
Yeah.
Put it on the birth certificate and gave you the gay card right then.
Yeah.
They just stapled together.
You were birthed and you were like, these drapes are terrible in this room.
Oh man, that's funny. Another thing, 84 that I want to pitch to is Dragon Ball. The original Dragon Ball came out in 1984.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Little kid Goku and all that fun stuff. So, all right. I had. I know we're over an hour now, but whatever. I had a question that I wanted to talk about something I was reading. My question is, if you could bring back from the dead a comic book creator to have lunch or dinner
as
with,
a zombie?
No, as
So
them.
it's a monster I'm having dinner
Hey,
with.
these are details. We need to know the details.
Yeah.
No,
I want to know what the rules are because this is like a monkey's paw.
as they would be in life, just normal humans. They are not zombies. They're not there to eat your brains. They're also not looking for a Lazarus pit of any sort. They are just there to sit and have a conversation with you. Who would it be? Ryan, you
Severin.
go ahead, Andrew.
Marie Severin.
Okay.
She's a famous inker and colorist and penciler, did everything. She worked at EC. She worked at Marvel. She was in charge of all the coloring at Marvel, doing the color separations and things like that. And she finally left in the late 90s. And so she was one of the few actual staff members. And so she was there for the whole thing with EC and over at Marvel. And she was hilarious. And so she has all the stories and she was funny. I want to talk to Marie Severin. Also, Steve Lieber had nothing but nice things to say about her.
Oh, cool. Ryan?
I would pick Jack Kirby.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be really fun to talk to him about early X-Men stuff, but even more so like the father of Marvel space, like cosmic Marvel. And I also want to be like, what is Kirby Crackle, and what did you envision when you were drawing it? What is it supposed to be?
Is it just get him a nice scotch and just sit there and drink with Jack Kirby? That sounds like an awesome night. What about you, Chris?
This one's a little bit closer to home. On last year, the colorist of the Stranger's Trade, his name's Dio Lima. He passed away last year, and so we worked together, and was like a best friend of one of the artists that works on the Strangers and did all the pencils for Ruthless, and he was just starting to get Marvel and DC work. Like it was like he had just celebrated. He did the Bloodstone, Elsa Bloodstone comic, and yeah, he was just about to hit his stride, and he had a heart attack out of nowhere. He was 34 years old. Oh, and man. So I didn't get to interact with him as much as I would have liked to while he was still working with us. For a little bit better known one, George Perez, I think, would be fun to talk to, because that guy, it'd be fun to talk to him about everything, and especially about his artwork. I love talking to artists about their process and how they do things, because I always feel like it's not practice. I'm just missing something. There's some technique that I have missed out on. You know what I mean? The way I'm holding my pen is wrong, or the pen I have, or something like that. Even though I know it's practice.
Right.
But it, I would to learn from somebody like that. I think would be really cool.
That's cool. I think mine would probably be Steve Ditko, just because.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that would be a night. And also because he famously didn't talk much or let himself be recorded or make appearances, so lots of I guess questions for him. Also, like, get his take on Stan versus Jack would be fun too, because I feel like he would have some feelings on that. You know what I mean?
Right. You could purchase one of his books on philosophy. I've read that are quite the bag of fun stuff in there. You give yourself a chance. I managed to get most of the way through one of them.
Through one of the 15. But yeah. So I wanted to talk about, just before we go real quick, I reread Trinity by Matt Wagner. It's a Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman story. I cannot remember when this came out. I should probably have looked at this before we recorded. But yeah, 2004. 2004. You got three of the biggest superheroes, like the only superheroes that survived the Golden Age, for the most part. But it's Batman and Superman know each other and they've worked together, and it's kind of Diana's first interaction with both of them. And it's got Bizarro, it's got Ra's al Ghul, who Bizarro calls Racer Cool because he can't say Ra's al Ghul.
That's a way better pronunciation anyway.
Racer Cool. So there's another T-shirt design, just a picture of Ra's al Ghul, and it says Racer Cool under it.
It's just like Speed Racer.
Yeah. Yeah, that's perfect. It's perfect. But yeah, no, it's really good. It's you get to go to Paradise Island and Metropolis and Gotham, and there's a really good portion where Clark and Diana show up while Batman's doing his thing to some gangster to try and get information, and Diana is just like appalled and shocked that the way he gets information, and she looks over at Superman. He goes, "Yep, does his thing. I've tried. It's not going to stop him. He's going to keep punching these guys until they give him answers. So I don't know what you want me to do about it." But then the arguments between Bruce and Diana are pretty good. So yeah, I suggest it. It's a fun read. I also wanted to throw this out there. Our friend Evan, Wasatch Wonders, has his Kickstarter, so this will be up on Wednesday. He's got one more day. They actually reached their goal today, which is awesome. So now they're pushing for their stretch goal. I'll link it in the episode notes. So if you can, go over, support our friends, support local comics, and yeah. And so that's, unless you guys had something that you read that you wanted to talk about.
I am rereading. I got a bunch of like graphic novels for Christmas that I'm still working through, and so I'm rereading the Secret Invasion trade, just the main book, right?
Yeah,
and really like it on my second reading. I think when that came out, I was reading a lot of books online, and so I think I read most of that series digitally, and it is. I like the story. I like the idea that there were some superheroes that were sleeper cells and magic and technology couldn't find them, so it freaks everybody out. Like I think it was a a pretty cool idea, and I love when characters are dressed like other characters, you know what I mean? And so this counts, having having the Skrulls. I like the Skrulls. I also like the idea that that Skrulls aren't like an alien race is not a monolith, right? Like in a lot of stuff, like you will go and the whole planet is one type of person, right? It's like if the whole planet is like they all dress the same, they all have the same political views and stuff like that, and so having the idea of like a religious zealots from a different alien race, I like that. I liked a lot of the stuff that they were introducing in there. I liked a lot of the artwork. So yeah, I could also see why they weren't able to do it in the TV show.
Right.
It would have been a lot of CG to try to make all of that happen there. But I also think it was kind of a missed opportunity to do one of the big problems with comic books and like them continuously going, right, is the aging out of the characters. And that's in the I think Marvel did a better job of it before they started rebooting the universe, where it just felt like whatever their origin was happened like 5 years ago. So where it was like, yeah, this was 5 years ago. You know what I mean? You start getting too far away from like World War II and Vietnam, like for the Punisher and stuff like that. You know, you have to start moving them into like, he needs to at some point be I don't know if they've already done this, but he needs to be like a vet from Afghanistan, right? Something like that, where the time just rolls with them,
just moves, yeah,
right. But I feel like the Secret Invasion would have been an opportunity to take some of the characters out, you know what I mean, or reboot some of them if it was like if the actor didn't want to be that character anymore. You could have used this opportunity to be like, oh, they didn't die, it was a Skrull, and then have a new actor, and it was like it was me the whole time, and then you could just and then it's fine, like not a huge deal. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. But I like the book. It's good.
Cool. Ryan, have you had any chance to read anything, or are you still just recuperating from convention?
No, so I've been reading Destiny of X, the X-Men line of that. It's right after Hickman finished, so I picked that up and started reading that. It's interesting. It's really good. Yeah, I would recommend that. The stuff that Hickman did and stuff that they're continuing on is really good. Some of the best stuff that has come out in a long time for X-Men stuff.
Cool. I have an X-Men question for you, but I want to see if Andrew's been reading anything.
Oh, I've been going through old issues of Back Issue I found because I was looking through my house for books that cover retrofuturism. So I found enough that I think I'm good, but I found an old Back Issue that focused on almost the entire issue on Frederick Wortham, the guy that wrote Seduction of the Innocent, the book that helped bring down comics in the 50s. And so it came out while I was in school, and so I didn't really have a chance to read it. So now I'm going back, and it's like new. It's terrific.
I feel like we need to get a copy of Seduction of the Innocent to bring to every single comic panel and just set it up on the table.
I have one. I can bring it.
Excellent. So the X-Men question that I want to ask you, Ryan, is one that Andrew got asked during our X-Men 60 Years of X-Men. Are the X-Men superheroes?
Because they were born that way? Because they're what? Like, well, so... Huh?
Just are they superheroes?
I think if
can you recreate the noise you made when that question was asked?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, it's yeah. So Ryan, I'm curious your thoughts on this because you're one of the few people that I know that knows more about the X-Men than I do.
I don't know about that. Yeah. You have a much larger breadth than I do. Maybe I have a bit more depth in this one thing.
His X-Men scalpel knowledge.
Yeah. I guess guess you need to define the superhero, and I guess one of my definitions of a superhero would be, because one of the differences between a hero and a superhero is that they've saved a large population, like a world saving type activities, and so I'd say yes, they are by that definition for sure. They have that team has done works that have affected the world and the universe on that kind of a scale. So I'd say yeah.
So
Okay.
when they do rescue someone, is it usually when they do rescue people? Isn't it usually from each other?
Well, so rescuing them from other mutants, yeah, but rescuing them from
They do very little like crime fighting, and they do very little rescuing of those people that hate and fear them. Yeah, it's no. I came to this realization years ago. I read like all of the Silver Age X-Men comics and was like, wow, they don't help a lot of people, especially in that era. And it gets different. They become more heroic later, but it's just like it's a lot of just interpersonal squabbling.
Sure, like they're just fighting the
each other,
the evil mutants or each other. But
no, I love X-Men. I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea. Yeah.
That's an interesting question. We could have a whole panel on that. See,
this is why you should have just come to the X-Men panel and been up there with us.
I'll just stay in the audience.
Well, Ryan, it's not that bad. Not a lot of people showed up. So
That's 13 of our best friends that were there. Yeah.
The solid 16.
Yep.
Yeah, Andrew always says that you didn't say the line about the X-Men.
Oh,
and
what?
their villains. That they're on the supply side of problems.
Yes. Yeah, they supply all the problems they're causing. They're solving.
There's another T-shirt for our future T-shirt shop. X-Men supplying the problems.
Yeah, yeah. They end up that if they look, it's always it's that meme when the person's looking at themselves in the mirror and they're like, "Why are you causing all my problems?" That's those guys.
Yeah, I'm looking at you, Professor X. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't. Professor X is more is 50-50 supervillain superhero.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah, from the early days too. Yeah, man.
Yep.
Just from the beginning.
He's doing shady shit from the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Day one, creeping on Gene with that blanket over his lap.
He's at the same point of Batman where like you don't think about it a lot when you're a kid. You're just like, colorful characters, and of course he does this, and then you start thinking too hard about it. Like, who is he mind wiped? Is that okay? I don't think that's okay.
He mind wiped Spider-Man during Secret Wars because he heard them colluding with like, hey, maybe we should go join Magneto. And Spider-Man's like, oh shit, I gotta tell Mr. Fantastic, and then mind wipe. But to Spider-Man's credit, he did take out all of the X-Men.
That's my favorite part of the Secret Wars is that he takes out the whole team.
It's awesome. I did say in the X-Men animation panel that my favorite character were Professor X's eyebrows from the animated
His Vulcan
series.
eyebrows.
Yeah, because those things are a whole ass character in and of themselves. But all right, so that's go ahead.
The Destiny of X stuff that I just talked about definitely brings some Xavier back to his villain roots.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. So that's all I had. Chris, Andrew, plug your stuff.
Oh, please go to ValidityStudios.com and all over social media to see all of our new drawings and projects and fun stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, what he said.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a problem with we're both like plugging the same thing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Oh man. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Yeah, you can find us everywhere at the Nerd Dome Podcast. Twitter/X/Threads, Instagram, Facebook, all over the place. We're there. But yeah, so that's all I got. Ryan,
Don't forget to subscribe.
you may now exit the dome.
Fuck responsibility.
I could see the whole time.
Hail Hydra.
Got anything, Andrew?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
What is Howard the Duck's catchphrase?
Wow.
This is excellent. See you guys next week.